And the $1 million goes along with it.
Hello, friends. We are live. It is the finale. If you are out west, you are starting Survivor with Jillian from Survivor Gabon right now as we speak. Peyton and I have already watched it. We are not going to spoil anything while Jillian's here. But we're going to spoil everything.
Let's go do it right now.
Because 42 is
I want to show you I'm playing my game.
we're all taking sips.
Oh, we are.
In the end, I will be wearing the Survivor tiara on my head, and I will be the ultimate Mr. Survivor.
Jillian, can you even hear us?
Everyone will know that Jonathan gave everything out.
I'm going to bring Jillian back at the commercial break that she's on because I think she's literally got us muted right now. Peyton, welcome back, buddy. It's good to see you.
Good to see you. I had such a good time last time, so I thought I would hop back on.
I'm so glad you did. Okay, so hello, friends. Welcome back to Live Reality Games. I have the speech. I haven't done the speech yet. Dustin wrote me a speech. This is the network of creators making your favorite shows into a reality. Welcome back. Thank you to everybody who covered for me. I was gone for 3 weeks. I was super lucky. I got to go to 2 LRGs.
Ooh, I didn't know. Which ones?
I can confirm that I was at Who is the Mole?
Okay.
Which was Dr. Jamie's amazing, spectacular mole game.
Yeah, Queen Missy.
Missy, the best mole ever.
Love her.
But I got to play, and it's still kind of undisclosed, a Survivor game. And it was the largest cash prize LRG ever. It was worth more money than Sequester.
Kirk.
Literally. And that's all I can say. Well, episodes next year.
Episodes,
and I'm going to be in them. I'm going to be
there. I love that for you. And then, so you didn't get first bill.
Who knows? Who knows? Maybe. So, special thanks to everybody that helped out those few weeks. Cam, Naomi, and of course, Dustin. Thank you for covering on all those days off. I missed all of the good weeks. Like, I missed Drea's boot. I missed the whole Omer thing. I was gone that week, and I was like, literally, I'm so sad because I still want to talk about all of that crap. But anyways, special thanks to all of the great LRGs that joined us this season to cover Survivor. Listen to this: Reality Rally, Aunt Jackie Productions, Survive, Adventure Coco Pele, Survivor Canberra, British Columbia, Ascendance, Surviving South Dakota, CNU, Buffalo, New York, Can You Survive, Survivor Michigan, and of course, one of Dustin's absolute favorites, an original concept, The Greenhouse. I tell you, this lineup is crazy good. It shows how much this community is growing, from college survivors to outdoor games to original concepts. And that's because of strong viewers and players like you guys. So thank you. Make sure you just subscribe to your favorite channels. Make sure if you like our content that you like and subscribe with us. And if you're not on YouTube, head over there and help us out. We need some more subscribers. So thank you, thank you, thank you. And joined here, of course, was Peyton. He'll be back.
Hi.
Jillian's in the background. And I have no idea who's going to pop on the finale. Just like before, it could be totally random, kind of like my birthday. And just like last year, I must be muted because Jillian obviously doesn't want to hear any spoilers. But I do want to show something really quick in case you didn't see this last week. So let me share my screen. I'm totally not set up for this right now.
Mess.
I'm a mess. Okay. So congratulations, Jillian. You are the winner of the Survivor LRG draft thing we did with 36 points. You literally killed it for the finale episode. You have 3 of the final 5 that were chosen. So congrats. And she's in the backstage right now, just like
She's just
so intense watching the episode. So thank you again. I'm gonna remove that. And I'm going to try to get her on right quick because I don't want to spoil anything while she's here. We'll just. I feel like I'm eavesdropping.
And like Mike gave me his word. He said, "If you're 5,
I can't. So you literally got to see a Survivor contestant watching Survivor. Oh, I have one more thing to share before we go on. This is for my friend Snyder. Snyder has been repping live reality games. He does racing. And so one of his cars he's been repping with our logo, which has been super cool. I think we came in 17th place last time, which is decent for how many cars there are. But let me see if I can share this screen as well, because he came up with this for me. Where is it? Oh, okay, there's Jonathan. He's a big fan of. Yeah, so I'm gonna start spoiling stuff now. Jonathan, he did his best.
Wow.
Tell me how you really feel.
I can't stand them.
Really?
I can't.
I love it because it's like Facebook fans adore him. It seems like every time
I loved him, and then it's just like it got to a point where I was just like, okay, it's like I've had enough. Like the abs are like fun and nice to look at, but like that's it. That's all there is to it.
Okay, so this episode, I can totally see that. This episode starts, and I loved Jeff's energy at the start of this episode, Peyton. Like he got me excited for what I think. My friend Rebecca texted me and she goes, "I think I just watched my favorite Final Tribal Council ever."
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
And I was like,
on a post, I said that was the best I've seen.
Okay, this is a little known fact because I've played Survivor 7 times. I've hosted it too many times to count. I hate Final Tribal Council.
Oh,
isn't this weird? This is a hot take.
Yeah,
it's my least favorite part of the game. Like as a viewer, I usually am like, snore fast, just vote, just vote. We just want
to see who wins.
I'm like, stop talking and vote. No, but seriously, sometimes it's just based on the content of what they're talking about that just starts to get to me. I did not feel that for a second. I was like, and I agreed with everything Jeff said at the end. It was riveting. They gave everybody a chance.
Yeah, they did. Romeo, like, I never hated him. I just clearly he wasn't playing like flashy and out in the open. And I was like, ooh, I was like clapping for him, and I was like, ooh, I love this. And like they all gave it their all, and like they all were playing for different reasons, obviously. So it was just nice to see they all cared, and the jury let them care. So it was nice.
It was super nice, but also like intense. It hit like all those buttons. I was super stoked.
I was bawling my eyes out. Like I was crying.
Really?
I was bawling at what Romeo was saying, and then Mary Ann. I was like, there's so much going on. Ugh.
We have the same exact ring light. Just saying, like, if I could turn my camera, I'd be.
Onesies. I'm not even using that.
Mine's getting a little bright. I'm looking a little dewy today.
I can't use it with my glasses because it's just horrible. But
yeah, I put in my contacts literally 10 minutes ago just for this. Okay, so I love Jeff's energy. There's so much I want to talk about. I've been loving the gameplay for the last because it's been a month since I've been on Peyton, and I've been loving this gameplay. Like Marianne's extra vote play for the 3-2-2 vote. I was like, oh my gosh, I wish I was on for this episode. That is money. That move, that was so good. But I was super interested that she didn't play the immunity idol.
Yeah. I was shocked. And then I was like, let Peyton just sit back, think. I was like, if she was like, this move's gonna get me to the end. And like the way she maneuvered speaking about it in the end, I was like, genius. It was almost better than not playing it. Like, kudos. Like,
yes.
Like that won her the game in essence.
Yeah, it sounds like it actually had a huge impact, especially for Omer's vote, maybe a few others.
Mm-hmm.
But this is interesting because Survival Challenge, there was a player, Justin, who had an idol, who had a core alliance at Final 5, decided not to play it. The core alliance turned on him. He was voted out with the idol in his pocket, and his whole strategy was, I wanted to show it at Final Tribal Council in order to use that as, my social game was so good, I didn't need to play it.
Mm-hmm.
And lo and behold, it didn't play out for him, but then I literally got to watch it on Survivor 42, and it was such a good gameplay. It goes to show, and I've been saying this for a while, people that make strong idol plays don't always win the game.
Yeah, because it proves that they're the biggest target to go home. I'm like, who wants to sit next to someone who's played an idol correctly? Nobody.
So it's almost better to sit on your idol or in some ways to play it. Yes.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
The Survivor 42, is it better to play your idol badly than greatly?
Yeah, like there's so many. It really just comes down to like what the jury respects. You never know.
Okay, so we have a special guest with us.
Ooh.
And I could not be more excited. I want to pause spoiling the episode because I don't know if they've watched the finale yet. But we are joined with the incomparable Survivor original Fijian, the one and only lip gloss Rita. Welcome.
Queen! Oh my God, Queenie! So, hi, first
Hello,
of all.
welcome.
Hugs. I have to start with my symbolic lip gloss kisses for everybody, and symbolically also represent what I said on my season that got that wonderful, promo trailer of lip gloss, that if I wasn't doing my work on television, I don't wear any makeup. I hardly wear anything except some mascara. And look, tonight I'm not even wearing the lip gloss. Sorry. Reason being I was glued. So you don't spoil anything with me. I saw the whole thing. Because I'm in the East Coast. So I was glued and I was running. I started it a few minutes late. And that's why I'm literally coming to you in real time, fresh off the Survivor finale. Literally, I just finished it 2 minutes ago when I came on here. So I pretty much watched this whole season. And what's interesting about me, remember, Kirk, is I wasn't able to make it to the first streaming that you did. Mm-hmm. I had to work that night. I was emceeing one of the trivia shows that I do. And so I didn't make it to that. I made it to the end and I gave my predictions at the end of that. So I don't know if you remember, if you have it and play it. Again, this is going to be a tricky one to talk about because we don't want to give spoilers.
No,
I'm just going to say you could go back, and I am so proud of myself. Like, once again, proving that I was a much better player than they showed on the season. That I literally picked three of the four from day one. From day one, I was like, so and so.
Well, Rita, we can spoil now. We've passed that point.
Oh, okay. So yeah, and actually we can spoil this because everybody knows who made the top 5. And I said on day 1, I predicted that the winner would be Marianne and Romeo would be there and Jonathan. Those were my 3.
Oh my God.
on day one.
Queen.
Yes, thank you, Peyton. I was just like like, why am I even surprised about this? Just like I predicted that Earl would win, and that's why I tried to warn everybody. And he's beautiful that I adore him, as you all know. He and I are like so close. But just like I predicted that and tried to warn everybody, watch out, Earl man. Yes, there he is, the Jonathan. So the 3 out of the 4, I predicted that on day one, on that first live streaming that you did.
This is crazy, Rita, because I have another guest that just showed up backstage.
Yay!
And on their episode, they also predicted a Marianne win. This is like what great podcasters we had. Like,
Yes.
I'm so intrigued by your instincts. Welcome back, Jeff Lally. Thank you for joining us, buddy.
Hi, Jeff.
Hi.
How did you feel about this finale episode, my friend?
I really enjoyed it, and I was waiting for Marianne to whip out that idol at the end and just go, oh, by the way, my game was so strong. Bam, look at this idol. It's not fake. Jeff, is this a real idol? I wanted her to go to Jeff and say, is this real? Just want to make sure. So yeah, I was really excited for it because I was like, why didn't she save Lindsay? And I'm like, oh, because she would have been really hard to beat.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I was like, she still has that idol. Wait, can she play it? No, she can't play it then. So she's taking that to tribal with her. She's got to pull that out.
Yeah.
That was awesome.
Yeah, I thought that was great play, and I really am glad that because at that moment, I can't even imagine, finding the strength to be, or from where to begin to be eloquent at that moment. Mm-hmm. And I'm so thrilled that she was able to find a way to do that, to defend that one brilliant strategic move, which goes to show you how, I don't know if I say unfair it is that, so many people throughout the game, you make, maybe more than several brilliant strategic moves. I felt kind of bad. I don't know if you guys agree with me, like, Mike, that played this super strong strategic game. And I feel like all of his strategic, good, strong strategic choices just got wiped out by the one, really good strategic move that Marianne did. But that's how Survivor is. It's a lot of areas. It's not fair,
I also think it was just like the way she presented it was like so much better than how Mike did, and the jury just like.
And that's what's so hard about playing Survivor, that it really, I always say, at least in my season, I always said that it was really, I noticed that the way we voted off was what happened closest to the time of having to vote, closest to the time of our tribal council. Mm-hmm. And in our case, it was because Ravu was so famished, and, we were so famished and dehydrated that our memories couldn't stretch too much far back.
Yeah.
So literally, it was like, it almost didn't even matter what happened in that challenge or that morning, because we couldn't remember.
Like the last thing you heard you were going with.
Remember. What was important was what you had people remember minutes before you went into tribal, because that's all that Ravu's mind could hold and remember. So I noticed that like, wow, you know what? It's really interesting. And you could use, in our season, you had to use that and be smart and say, okay, it's not so bad if I don't do well, and it was the first half. So it's not so bad if my tribe doesn't do well. It's how you handle that time after your challenge when you go back to camp. And, the equivalent, the fast forward encapsulation of that is Marianne at the tribal council. She just took a whole season and was brilliant to say, you know what, I've got what they're going to remember and right here, right now.
Yeah.
And she was so brilliant, like you just said, Peyton, at presenting the way she was like, and so that what I did was this, and then I did that, and did and that, and I grabbed that, and I had an amazing strategy, and everybody was like,
and I think it like
Yeah, you did.
translated so well because like she didn't play like in your face, and so when she came out in your face, everyone was like, "Oh, I want to listen to you because you're not usually like this. So I'm listening." Where Mike was how he played, and like people just translated with Marianne better. So.
See, I mean, that's what is so like amazing about the game of Survivor. Like what you just said, like, okay, here he was usually, that my point. I don't know if I'm making that clear that here he was being doing all the right things as far as strategically, but at the end, he really didn't get any credit for it. Why? Because even though he did it right during all those 25 days, every single day, all those 25 days, in the 5 minutes where he needed to summarize all that, and that's possibly, as you just correctly said, Peyton, if he had summarized those 25 days of strategies, effectively,
he could have gotten half the jury. He could have gotten half the jury.
Yeah, and they said it because all the people who were like, I might have voted for him. Yeah, I might have voted for him.
I definitely. He definitely. Like, I was worried about her. Like, I was like, if she doesn't say every single correct thing, she's not taking this. And she said everything right. So, Queen props, love her. I picked her from day one as my winner, so I love her. So,
yeah.
Rita, it's interesting you were talking about how the game affects your mental state, your memory. There's so much it affects. And at the Final Four challenge, I think we saw that because they played Simotion, which is the game where you put the ball in the metal thing. Rita and I have actually gotten to see that at Survival Challenge.
Person, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They built the coolest replica.
God. Dead on.
Yeah.
But that was all the challenges you guys had out there. They were all dead on challenges.
If you want to play Survivor challenges and you can't get on the show, you need to apply to the game Survival Challenge because they are big.
Realistic as they get. I was actually thankful that I wasn't participating in it. When I was watching it, because I remember I had almost signed up and then I don't know, something happened and I couldn't go ahead and participate. And when it didn't happen, I was like, praise the Lord. That was him protecting me because these challenges, we had people that had to be hospitalized. Remember? Someone got taken to the hospital. So it was that realistic.
It was absolutely. And that was an electrolyte issue and they had no idea.
And that happens. That's Survivor.
Yeah. So in the challenge, they Mike falls out in the warm-up round.
Yeah, the warm-up part.
The way I was gooped, I literally my mouth I would cry. I'd be devastated. I would cry my eyes out if I was there and knew everyone was watching. It was on camera. I would have sat down, cried. I probably would have walked off. Like I would. He knew that was like his $1 million right there. Could have just been.
Yeah.
But it was like I felt like we saw the same thing. Marianne flubbed, like her memory just went so fast, and then Jonathan did the same thing. Like he literally put the third ball in and then instantly forgot. And if you go back to like Steven in Tocantins and Aaron and JT, they went to day 8 playing the same challenge and they went a lot farther. So I think this new Survivor is harder on the contestants in maybe some way, Rita. I'm not sure, but maybe less food. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know because I'm the one, at least every time I've gotten a chance to express how I feel about that, I'm upset that it's only 26 days.
Yeah.
Because I look at it and say, I looked at day 15 and thought, wow, I would be that much farther in this game had I been in the 26-day version of it. So I don't know. It's hard to judge unless you're there. So it's easy for all of us to say and for me to say that I don't think it's as hard as as the ones with day 39. But
I'm curious to see someone who played and made it to the end, like in a later season, play with someone new, like had that only got to day 26. Like if they were to do another second chances and brought back someone from season like 12, and then someone from this season, like I wonder how that would translate. I wonder if like old school would not like new school because they didn't play as long. Like I feel like all of that would come into like play. It'd be so cool to see.
Yeah, to see that. And tonight, actually, Chantal, is it? I think she made a comment that Jeff asked her about, so how was it not having rice? And she was like, oh my gosh, it was like, you know, she was saying how horrific and how depleted they were on day 11. And I'm like, really? Because we were on day 15 without anything.
And that's barely even anything in that game. Like y'all had to go so much longer.
At all. So, you know, it just, I hope that a lot of people, and I know that our fans have been so, at least in my case, whoever is out there watching that are fans, I have, with all the languages that I know how to speak, is not enough gratitude to say thank you for how brilliantly understanding they have been to really capture the essence of how difficult the OG Survivor season with Rabu and Moto was. Because they get that. They really, really do get that, you know, we had, you know, nothing. And I haven't seen anything really comparable to that extreme of nothing. Because remember, we never got sent back to camp, or rather we got sent back to camp with the I got nothing for you phrase every single time. We did not get like, okay, first tribal is over, here's your flint.
Yeah.
That, you know, we got that happening every single time. Was like, all right, Rabu, go back to camp. I got nothing for you. Yeah. I remember that was my nightmare phrase for like months after that. That's what I would wake up in the middle of the night with hearing Jeff sing, I got nothing for you. And then waking up and looking around and going, oh yeah, I'm in my room. I'm okay. I do have stuff. I'm okay. I'm good.
I think that translates also into like, you don't play as long, but still someone would win a reward and they would be like, oh, you haven't eaten, but it's only been 7 days. And like, and they're picking people that hadn't eaten yet. And I was like, y'all need to like, not be like picking Jonathan for that last reward. Are you like, I thought that was the stupidest thing.
Yeah.
They're giving food to the strongest guy out there. And
feed the beast.
What are you doing? Like, I would never.
But here,
but he was so depleted at that point. I don't think he was the strong. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's true.
He was.
How do you lose 40 pounds? Where do you lose 40 pounds?
And he was still having the abs and the muscles. And I was like,
he lost 42 pounds. Is that what he lost? 42?
I thought they said 250 to 210. Am I correct?
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, I heard that. It was like 40 pounds there. But he was all muscle to begin with, so he lost more muscle.
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
he didn't have fat to come back.
Yeah. Well, I remember in one of the early, like, first 6 seasons, I forget his name.
Rita, I'm going to pause you for 1 second. We have 2 special guests in the background that are going to join us as well.
Some water, actually, while you.
Sounds great. If you are joining us, we are spoiling the finale of Survivor 42. In the background, backstage, is Survivor Jillian from Gabon, literally watching. And for those of us that have access, we were literally watching a Survivor watch Survivor, which is kind of fun. But with us as well is 2 of my good buddies that I've only met by watching LRGs and doing these podcasts, and it's been awesome. And I hope and can't wait to actually meet them in person someday. I feel like at some point we need to do an LRG meetup, like Rob has a podcast, does meetups too. But at this point, let's welcome to our podcast both from out east games, Maine. And Can You Survive? Cameron and Brandon, welcome, guys.
Wait, Cameron, you joined at the same time?
I didn't even see you there. What are the odds?
Welcome. Brandon, how do you feel about the season?
Oh my God. Well, it ended how I wanted it to end. So I'm very happy with how it went.
Me too.
Excellent. Cam, We kind of schooled you in the draft this season. Last
God.
season, you're the big winner, dude. But regardless of not picking the winners, what's your overall take so far from this final tribal council and overall 42?
I mean, I thought it was an amazing season from beginning to end. I mean, I think it just really shows how Survivor can thrive when the characters are big. Like it was big characters throughout, and I really thought that the editing was a lot different from 41 to 42. Of like, I always thought, at least watching it, I mean, it was a pretty well balanced edit. Obviously, I think there were times when like everyone was like, "Oh, Omer's doing this, Omer's doing that," and it kind of overshadowed some things. But I think having seen it kind of now in retrospect, I think that was a really cool editing tactic that they used to kind of shadow a little bit that was going on. But I never felt like Marianne, Romeo, or Jonathan or Mike, any of those people were going under the radar by any means. So it became a really cool ending to the show.
I see Jillian moving in the background. I hope we're still muted so she can't hear anything. Jillian's totally, they just, what time is it right now?
It is 11:30. So
okay, so
they're still early.
Yeah, they just got to the first challenge, I think.
Maybe,
right?
yeah.
Yeah. So speaking of
challenge, let's
talk about it. Yes.
Her board drop, her dropping that board, that's what lost her, to be honest. Like, if she hadn't dropped that board walking across, she would have had the last piece. She would have got to the puzzle first.
She would have.
That was her version of this emotion loss.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Oh, yes. Oh, that's so true. Also, we completely forgot the final advantage clue, just like Erica had. Brandon, what did you think about this whole sequence where Lindsay solves it, Marianne solves it, but doesn't show it to everybody? What did you think?
I loved it from from a viewer aspect. Like, I loved Lindsay and I wanted her to find it and I wanted her to get the advantage. So I was super happy that she did. How did it take them 40 minutes and still not get it? Like, what? It took her that long to find it and no one joined her on the hunt? Like, that was kind of strange. But on like the other side of it, I'm glad.
Followed her.
What?
I couldn't believe no one followed her. I agree with you. Why didn't they follow her once she started running away?
Yeah, you had to have the puzzle written down before you could leave.
Yeah.
Right, I'm saying I can't believe they couldn't solve it.
Yeah,
solve it
40 minutes.
Did you notice it was the word sleeping? They said that got them, right?
Yeah.
So I don't know if you can see this. The answer was good fortune is tucked in the toes of a sleeping giant.
I never would have. I suck at pie. I never would have gotten that. I'm so dumb. Like, I would never have gotten that.
Weirdest phrase, and then they have to outline a weird looking foot onto the rock.
Yeah,
because it doesn't actually look like a
I never saw it.
I don't
know.
Yeah, I thought for sure it was that palm tree, that first palm tree.
Yeah.
I thought for sure. I was like, oh, totally. That's a sleeping giant. Those are his feet. That's it right there. So.
Okay. So I have a conspiracy theory. Dustin and I were watching, and the first clip they show of the advantage, it looks like it's on top of that rock, right?
Yeah.
Okay,
sure.
Right.
So I think you guys are feeling the same thing. So then Lindsay gets close. She's almost going to climb to the top of it, and then she's like, probably like, oh, this is sketchy because it looked sketchy. Like, I'm not going to climb up here. And then she just walks around it on the beach, like when Poverty found that like edge of extinction, like peanut butter or whatever it was. I was like, that was not down there.
They definitely filmed it on top and then moved it because she probably wasn't going to find it up there.
Okay, so that's fair. But if that's where the toes were, so that's where it should be. I don't know. I was just
tucked in the toes. Yeah.
They were probably like, these people are stupid. Nobody else is solving it. Just move it so she can get it. So she can move on.
It's been 40 minutes already.
Let's just make it visible. There's 80 people still sitting there and they still can't solve it. So let's get on.
No, wait. So did Marianne solved it, right? And she just didn't. She didn't want to walk away because she didn't want to look sketchy.
She didn't want to.
She wanted Lindsay to win anyway. Remember, she was just like, I don't care at all because I'm buying Lindsay time because I want her to win.
Yeah, she was slowing down, but that would have been another good thing to say at that final tribal, saying, I solved that puzzle.
Yeah.
I'm waiting there. I'm sandbagging, to keep Lindsay out there searching for the clue to get the advantage. I sacrificed myself there as well, and I still had this idol to boot.
Right.
She had the end inside the whole time. Like, she was like, I can do this and say this later. It's just like, ugh, 20 years old, please. Like, I could never
It's-
at 20, never.
She's so good because in some ways, Jeff, that does contradict her other statement, which is she needs to get rid of Lindsay. I think what happened to Marianne is she was thinking one gameplay at the start of round 5, which was, I want to keep Lindsay. And then I think correctly, she realized,
Yes,
I can't beat Lindsay. And I think she changed her mind
For
Mhm.
sure.
after
She
that
did.
advantage was done. I think she's kind of lucky in that sense.
I think it's huge. Well, it's huge too because she had that whole concept of playing the idol on Lindsay, and I think if she does that, I think that's a real dangerous thing of leaving Lindsay in the game. You don't know how that works with Lindsay and Mike and Marianne. How a final 3 will work out in that scenario.
Yeah.
I mean, and saving it, and obviously she was able to do the big reveal at Final Tribal, but you lose that kind of impetus of physically playing it and how big that is. And so I think that was the real savvy move of, okay, it might not be as big of a move to show it at Final Tribal Council, but it's the smarter move. And I think sometimes I know I watched with a couple of people, and there were people that were saying, she should play it on Lindsay because it's the bigger move and the jury will love that. And I think you gotta make sure that you're making the right moves, not the smart moves. The same way that what was it, Omer's thing about you got to do the smart lie, not the stupid lie or something like that.
I think she would have found herself in fire had she have played it on Lindsay, and I think she probably wouldn't have made it to the end. So,
but she verbalized that.
She did everything right.
Yeah, she verbalized that so well though at Tribal too, and how she pivoted at that point.
But that Final 5 challenge, guys, literally, isn't that the greatest thing ever? Like, don't you just dream to play that thing someday?
Yeah.
That's the best one. And someone here was joking. She said that she didn't see the final 6 episodes of Token Cheans, right? But the final 2 challenges, because the next challenge is Samotion, are pretty much the I mean, the Token Cheans Final 5 is slightly different, but it's the same concept of like running out and doing little challenges and then coming back and doing the thing. It's almost kind of funny that she hasn't seen those challenges as much.
That is funny. I was talking earlier how it was just interesting how I loved how Jeff Probst gave us the history of Survivor and Samotion, plus telling us the secrets like, oh, you might think this is a catering company, but this is literally our PAs that are doing confessionals, and they're handing out pizza, which I do think they need to maybe rethink, but that's only because there's a lot of food on lips and mouths. It's just it's a little weird to me. Can we talk
Also,
about this?
Only 3 of them are hungry.
Right.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah, right.
True.
That's so true. That's
Sorry, guys. If you see me turning away, I've got one of my dogsters who's
She's adorable.
he loves to steal my slipper, and so I gotta just take a quick break to play the "Give Me Back My Slipper" game, and I'll be back as soon as we're done with that one. Okay, I'll be right back. Don't vote me off. I'll be right back.
we know.
Yeah, Minnie, let's go.
So okay, is she gone? No, I'm just kidding. So
I
up
can
here.
hear you. Don't talk harder.
Oh shoot, she's voting me out now. Damn it. So anyways, this is the logo of 42. I was having a fierce debate with Dustin because we walked away going, what the fuck? Can anybody tell me what this represents from this season? Because I didn't catch it.
They didn't even have a maze like that the whole season.
No maze.
Yeah, that's hilarious because they have had mazes like that. Like that is a normal Survivor
Right.
challenge, and they literally have
I feel
never
like the
done
lock
that.
and key symbolizes like a power you would find or something, and that didn't even happen.
Oh no,
Wait,
you're right.
Well,
Not because was that last season when they opened the chat, or am I thinking of Survivor Australia?
well, there was an advantage that Omer said in his exit interview that wasn't shown. I don't. Maybe that.
I don't
has to
know
do-
fire, but that was
It's-
supposedly within a fish. So I don't think it's a lock and key.
I
okay.
think
The closest thing I can think is the
Snyder's
do or
right.
die. Oh, what was it?
Snyder just posted. It's the amulet. It
Oh.
was a key. Do you remember? I think I could find a picture of it if we wanted to, but I think he's correct. But I don't think there was a maze at any point in this entire season.
Well, they did like the ball maze, but like it didn't look like that.
Oh, okay. Well,
but
I feel like if anything, it should have been like the individual immunity necklace, like the snake thing on the logo.
Yeah. Did you see the 43 logo is like Pirates
I
of the
missed
Caribbean?
the whole 43.
It has an octopus.
The octopus.
Yeah.
It was like the Kraken, I thought at first. I was like, oh, it's pirates are coming back.
I can only guess we're getting Tribes of 8.
Or no? Did they show cast members for next season?
They showed a lot, yeah.
Yeah,
we
I
get
didn't
to
go
see a
watch
lot,
it.
almost all of them, yeah.
I walked away and I was like, damn, I missed the whole thing.
Yeah, they did. They showed most of them.
Ooh.
Yeah, it's good stuff. It looks like it could be a lot of the same stuff we got for 41 and 42, but we'll see. Who knows? Okay, so we had that Final 5 Gauntlet. That was super interesting. Mike and Lindsay at the end of that challenge. I really thought Mike was going to lose that puzzle a couple times, Rita. It looked like it was going to fall apart, but he kept it together.
That was interesting because that was an element of that puzzle that you didn't like. I didn't think of that element until it happened. You know what I mean? As you start putting it together and it just looked like, oh yeah, just, if they get them in there, it'll be fine. But then when they started falling out, you're like, oh crap, it could literally all crumble. So that's fine, honestly. And when you're in there, and again, you're depleted, no electrolytes, you're just that to have the consciousness of, oh, wait, I gotta do that plus hold it together is like a huge thing to ask your brain to figure out. So I was really impressed that which is why they do those challenges. It's all very brilliantly, like psychologically planned. They know that they studied the psychology of what's happening to the human body and the human brain under those circumstances on that juncture of that moment, as far as hydration, as far as, the amount of food that or lack of, and how your mind and body is going to react in those challenges. So believe you me, it's planned. No, the production knows that the human brain at that point probably can't, and that it's probably going to crumble, which would have made for an even better.
I would have like went up and not like around, because that's what made it like so wobbly. But then again, your brain, like you said, doesn't put that together.
But it worked, however way he did it. And I honestly thought the way he did it was good. I thought, okay, yeah, do the frame. Because I didn't think of how they could fall off once you're trying to fit them in the middle. And again, until you're doing it, you realize, oh Jesus, this is gonna crumble, which is what happened to Lindsay, I think, why she ended up.
Mike's old school, anyways. We all grew up doing puzzles that are older.
Yeah,
and kids don't do them, and you always work from the border. You always make
the border exactly. First, that's true. Right? You do the frame. There you go.
Yeah, you do the border.
So I liked Jonathan's strategy of just not doing the puzzle.
Watching.
Let me watch my best.
You just sat there.
Yeah, well, that is a strategy to watch somebody else put it together, but usually you're copying, not just watching.
Lindsay called him out, though. He was like, did you see him? He was just watching Mike, blah, blah, blah.
I could have sworn he was going to, like, pull out a beer, at one point, like, there he is drinking his beer, watching the other guy do the puzzle. That's funny. It's so funny.
Wouldn't put it past him, meathead. Let me stop. I know there's a lot of Jonathan stands out there, so let me stop.
Well, especially on Facebook, we know if you follow Facebook, there's a bunch of Jonathan fans on Facebook.
Sure, yeah.
Peyton, how did you feel about Mike wins the challenge? He gets that middle piece in, surprisingly, and then he picks Jonathan. Peyton, you're not feeling it.
I just can't, like. I truly, I was commenting on like a live feed, and I was like, for one, you already know you have him with you. Like, pick someone else for a strategy wise, and don't kill someone that's strong and that needs the food. You give it to someone like Romeo, who is the food's not going to affect him if he does or doesn't get it. That's who I would have chosen. Knowing he's on the bottom of everything, why wouldn't you take that as an opportunity? Once again, I've never played a Survivor game, so I really don't know. But just like from a viewer looking in, that's what I would have done.
Yeah, that's true. If you're right. From a strategic point of view, he already had that alliance sealed with, unless, again, we're not there. And as we know, we don't see 100% of everything. So maybe we're missing, no pun intended, a piece of the puzzle there with Mike and Jonathan that made him say, I feel I need to bring him here to clear something else up or to cement this further. Maybe he was already thinking ahead about, remember he had that moment to talk to him about trying to convince him not to do the fire. So maybe he was trying to already kind of thinking ahead of getting to that point to try to win him over even more, so that Jonathan would have,
you just say he was like busy too or something. So I'm like, if you're that close with someone, sure. I don't know. I'm just way too.
But I agree with you strategically.
I'm way too logical and cutthroat about things. I'm just like, no, I ain't gonna give you food, bitch. You're like, do you see the abs you're working with and the muscles?
We're on Survivor, honey. Yeah.
I was like, I'll look at your abs all day, but I'm not gonna feed you. I can't go fishing. You go fishing.
Did you guys notice how Jonathan ate at
like
the
cavemen?
Okay.
Reward, good lord.
Okay, so I will admit that's how I eat. I'm embarrassed to admit it, but I'm a shoveler.
Oh, yeah, you did the pasta.
I'm a teacher, so I have like 15 minutes to eat lunch. So I just trained myself. I'm like nurses I hear do this too. Like we just shovel like as quick as possible.
Yeah, I literally was shoveling. That's so funny.
He was so hungry.
Yeah.
Did you guys notice? Did you take notice of the fake idol that Romeo made?
Yes.
Yeah. Any takeaways from any of you about his fake idol at all?
I think there was a lot more that it didn't show. I'm sure it was like a lot more, and I just feel like it had zero to do with the plot, so they didn't air it. But there was probably a lot more. He was probably like, "Ooh, flashy," like blah blah blah, or like told someone about it. But I think it like got lost in the wind with Omar's advantage that was never shown. Apparently, I don't know. I still don't know anything about that, but
it looked pretty good.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah, I guess I feel like that's the thing about how bad they make the idols nowadays is like they make them so janky looking that like it's not hard to make something somewhat realistic, but like when I looked at it, I was like, that kind of looks like what they were giving out earlier, right? Like physically that looks fine. No one believed you. I don't think anyone ever believed him, but
no.
What still gets me from, because if you remember, I honestly think it was in my season when all of a sudden the whole, idea or concept of sharing idols came. I mean, when I was put on Survivor, it was like there were two golden rules. And I don't know if you remember my season, we were cast as people who did not know anything about how to play the game of Survivor. And they tried to, show us as many seasons as possible before at the DoubleTree when we were kidnapped, and try to get us to get a clue of how to play it somewhat. And I remember just from the get-go, first night out there, all of us were like, wow, this is so, just the first night, that like the morning after the first night, huge consensus, 100%. Everybody was like, wow, I know they made us watch all those, but like, this is so much worse and so much more like worse than all of those seasons. Like I binged, and everybody's like, how many seasons did you get through? I'm like, I got through 10 seasons. And like, I didn't see anything in 10 seasons that is anywhere near how horrible this just one night that we went through here was. Everybody, that was one consensus. But the two things I got were that I did understand was like, Rita, you don't want to be a leader and you don't want to tell anybody when you find an immunity idol. Those
Queen
were like
Marianne.
the two huge, and then go figure, in my season is the first time ever that from what I understand, that because up until that season, again, 13 seasons prior to that was the big no. You just do not. And so it's interesting to me how now that's become a thing. It's done a 360-degree turn and become into something that you can't wait to share, and you have to figure out a way. It's become a strategic thing to share it, and how to do it has become one more strategy.
Yeah, it's almost like
see how
people knowing has more currency. It's weird.
Yeah.
I like it.
But I feel like you see how negative it's become almost to share it. Like I feel like anyone who has shared it,
Target.
Immediately became a target, or information got out. I mean, it almost was never a good thing. It was such a good thing for Marianne to hide the one that she did hide, and that was almost like the thing of this season. And I feel like 41, both seasons have had that like whole kind of problem of just verbal diarrhea, right? You're telling everyone everything and you can't keep anything in. And I feel like that's because there's so many advantages and so many things, like it gets you really into a big trouble to be sharing those things.
I agree. I think I'm 100% with Cameron, and I wonder if that's going to start regressing.
Yeah.
Into maybe it's not. Maybe there was a reason that for 13 seasons, the immunity idol was the strategy of it was the opposite of what they're doing now. The strategy of is don't say anything, keep your mouth shut, which is my strategy was to try to keep as you can see clearly here, I am a communicator. I am a talker and I'm a people person. And my main strategy there was to not talk. Like you just said, Cameron, you know what? My strategy here is going to be to listen and let what people say help me create that strategy according to what other people give away because of what you just said. Because, diarrhea of the mouth can get you into trouble. And I'm like, I don't want, and I know that I am a communicator. I like to talk. And I thought, okay, no, I'm not going to let that be the reason that I get into trouble out here. And I think that is still key. But that's, again, one of the hard things of Survivor is measuring how much of this, how much of that. And you never know. It's the one thing that goes, oh, God. Like we just
different every time.
Back to before we started, and Cameron and Brandon weren't here. We were talking about how, Mike did all those things during 25 days, but the one thing that that Marianne only did once, and yet even though she only did that one great strategic move, even though Mike did 25 of them, Marianne is the one who ended up winning in the end. That's what makes this the mystery of like, why is that? That's one of the $1 million questions.
It's also wild to me, like bouncing off advantages that like an idol hasn't been correctly played in like so long. Like it's so wild. Like and like an idol hasn't positively affected a game being played correctly in like 2 years. Like I read that on Twitter, and like 2 actual years, not like 2 Survivor years.
Yeah,
it's just crazy to me that like it's not really affecting the game as much like anymore.
That's interesting. I had one more thing before we leave Romeo's fake idol. I first off, I absolutely loved him throwing it in the fire instead of probes throwing it in the fire.
Go.
I was like, Romeo, hello, that is your cash winning. Sell that on eBay, baby.
Yeah, true.
Like Rita, you can sell things after the show.
Yeah.
So I was like, oh baby, no, don't.
Yeah,
don't. But then,
people.
Did you see Drea? Drea was like, eh.
I was like, what?
But I will say this, they did end up showing close-ups of a lot of their wrists. All of the final five had bracelets made out of the same beads and hemp. And I was told by a Dream Team member that is production, but they're not necessarily the higher ups of production. They're the ones that put these things on things like the torches nowadays will have beads. And so what they do is they take them off of that. So they were clearly making bracelets for each other because production didn't let them come into the game with I saw
No.
one person with 3 bracelets on. And so and all the idols looked like poorly made camp
Yes.
like camp bracelets from when you were in elementary school. So I'm
Mhm.
thinking, this is going from your season where the idol was like an actual like thing,
Super intricate, yeah.
intricate, like China, where we have these large idols.
Which is why, to your point, why we would keep them and actually help a lot of charities auctioning off idols.
Well, just like
because
what's
they were
her face sold her Jessica sold her rock from when she got rocked out. Like she sold it on eBay for like a ton of money.
Yeah.
Wow. So yeah, that I was thinking you shouldn't get rid of it, but I thought it was interesting that he made a bracelet. The idols were bracelets, but they were also clearly making bracelets for each other. So I just don't know if that was the most effective strategy for a fake idol. I don't know what you can do. I mean, you might as well just go back to Ozzy's poorly made stick. I mean, you have no clue.
The carved stick.
And remember Yao Man? Remember
Yeah.
Yao Man's fake idol also?
Oh yeah. That was decent.
Yeah.
That's
I think he just
right.
wanted his flashy production. Maybe this will get me airtime. Like I think that's what it was, to be honest.
Yeah.
But you never know.
What about Mike? Mike has a real idol, and a lot of the gameplay goes around the opposite strategy of instead of Marianne keeping her secret, Mike tells everybody. Beyond that, Jeff, Mike promises the idol to everybody. What did you think about that strategy?
Yeah, sorry.
No,
No,
you go.
I that strategy. No, I thought that was he's just vomiting all the time. He gave too much information, and I think that hurt him at the end too. When everybody was remembering what did you do lately, and it's like Mike was just the same all along, and you had this transformation by Marianne at the end, and they're like, oh, this is a new story. This is something interesting for us, and we're going to go vote that way.
Yeah.
At the end.
I
thought
think
it was
transformation is so much bigger. Like you see, like I don't know, in the way she spoke so eloquently, like it's who wouldn't like I could not vote for her. Like who like she just did everything correct. I will literally never shut up about it. I love her. Queen. I will go to my grave. I will die on this hill.
We're here for it. We're here for it.
It's from day, as I mentioned when we started, from day one, she was my pick. But it's also interesting if you analyze like just what we said, what Jeff just said, and Cameron said about Mike talking too much. Marianne did the same, but why did it work for Marianne? Marianne was extremely communicative about her feelings. Like she said, she wore her heart on her sleeve, and she would, and then some, and talk about it. Interesting. Why does it work for some people and not for others? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I feel like
age if it does work, and if you feel that it does, like keep playing into it. And I think she played into it in a way where Mike was just doing it because that's what he does, and she like actually had strategy behind it. So it was just different because she knew like, hey, this is gonna work because this is happening. I just queen.
Nobody was threatened by Marianne going through the whole thing. I don't think until
Mhm.
right at the end.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel
They
like
didn't have
when
time to react.
when she spoke to people and when she was talking a lot, it was more like social. And when he was talking a lot, I feel like it was more strategic. So he lied to a lot of people.
Good point.
And
that's a really good point.
I don't know. I feel like the whole season it was like showing us why Mike lost. Like he got a lot of airtime, he got a lot of confessionals, he did a lot of things.
Very true.
And all the things he did, a lot of the things didn't work. But as we saw in this last episode, like he lied a lot to the jury. And then he went into Final Tribal saying like, oh, I wanted to play honorably, whatever.
Yeah.
And I feel like that was what differentiated the two, was like his was lying about the game, and hers was just talking a lot.
But it's all about how they understood how they perceive themselves, right? So like Mike perceived himself as this like hugely honorable guy who was going about being really honest with people, whereas like we could see obviously he was lying to everyone. He told two people he was going to give them his idol. He couldn't do that, and so when he got to Final Tribal and thought, hey, I played this really honorably, and the jury was like, what are you talking about? You definitely didn't. The difference is Marianne, who was like playing super emotionally, right? Like clearly super emotionally, but she knew and she could tell exactly how she was coming off to other people, because remember she had the confessional about how, you know, she purposely cried when she gave up, you know, immunity, and she like really like teared up and was like, I think I could be voted out here. And she was like, hey, like I'm using emotion as a weapon. I know that I'm emotional. I'm using that as a weapon. And she then was able to articulate the same thing in Final Tribal. It's not really that either of them did anything wrong. It's that one was aware and could articulate it, and that's what the jury, you know, respected. I don't think like either of them really did anything wrong. Just Marianne was so much better about articulating why she did it.
I think she like actually took a step back to like assess, and where Mike was like in the game, which is not a bad thing, but like she knew to like I need to step back and reassess myself and like think everything out, and this is how it's going to work. Whether he was never out of game mode, she took a step out of game mode to assess what was going on, which is why he knew how to capitalize her weapon, where he was just playing and being himself, and he didn't self-assess.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's like I said earlier, it's not just, and that's why they say outwit, outplay, outlast, and now I would add like out summarize, like.
I
think it's literally like it's all those things, and plus at Tribal, who is the best summarizer, the most eloquent of the outwit, outplay, and outlast. Like who took those three elements and presented that as, you know, calmly, clearly, eloquently, passionately, owned it the best. And I think that's where Mike failed. Like he not stuttered, not like with words, but he stuttered with his presentation. He didn't have that, you know, you could see Marianne's, even, I don't know if you guys saw it, but you could see even physically, she was like up here with it. You know, she was like, you know what? And I did, and she would lean forward and you know what? And I did, and that. And that just goes to show you how important, like, you know, your physical moves are. Whereas Mike,
your body language.
Really think about it. His body language. He was down here whenever he would talk. He was like here.
I think it speaks a lot where you are in your life too when you're playing. Like Romeo and Marianne were both in such a different part of their lives. Like Mike's so comfortable. He has a family. He's married. He doesn't have anything like to struggle with.
Like you said, right.
Romeo and Marianne are just like growing from an experience of which is like it came off like Mike didn't have emotion.
Well, where you are in your life, I think is crazy because I mean, or like super important because I feel like Marianne is like, you know, in college or in school, like trying to apply for jobs. And I felt like she answered almost all those questions. Like she was like in a suit at an interview. She was like, oh, this is exactly, you know, like restating the question and then like giving it to them and then saying, is there anything else you wanted to know? You know, like very like formal and stuff like that, which was like,
it's a great analogy.
Helpful. I mean, it isn't like, you know, super.
I was just going to say that. That's exactly, that's what you would call if you want an example of how a job interview, you should handle a job interview, watch Marianne in that confessional. She summarized her resume of her game of Survivor, you know, to the point
where cut off my resume. Here you go.
Yeah, she literally, the end of that would have been like, and that's why I'm your most valuable candidate for your team. Thank you.
There's also those optics that 2 rounds earlier, Mike just gave Marianne an idol, and then she literally reveals at Tribal Council that she didn't need his idol, but took that from him. And I think that's like pulling the carpet out from underneath everything he's been talking about, because he's talking strategy, and he's completely unaware of this so subtle play. And I think there's so much credit that we're learning about using these idols more subtly, being more secretive about it, not necessarily playing them effectively, using them offensively, but maybe not even using them. And I think that's a really interesting kind of new way of looking at Survivor.
So how about
Gosh.
Drea with her shopping list of all these advantages she had?
Queen, love
I mean,
her.
she could have a yard sale to sell all that stuff.
Her poor, like,
That's the thing though.
her
I mean,
poor
but like
idol
she
skill,
didn't
that was so horrible.
she didn't use them effectively. I mean, like even I mean
Exactly.
the whole thing that took her down was revealing about the knowledge is power, right? I mean, it's that same problem of like over revealing too much information is going to hurt you. She revealed the knowledge is power. That's what was ultimately the end
Yep.
of Drea, and
Omer
I feel
betrayed her.
like yeah. So I mean I think it's that same lesson that we're learning of like you can have all these things, but utilize them correctly and telling other people, sure, the easiest thing you can do with some sort of information, whether it's an advantage or something, is share that, right? The easiest thing you
Yep.
can do is share that, and that builds an immediate bond. But is there something smarter you can do with it? Is there something longer term that you can do with it? And that's what people aren't doing. I feel like that's where we see like the shorter term gameplay kind of blows up in people's faces.
When you have
Yeah.
that much, like my mind, I would just be like, what the fuck do I do with all this shit? Like, if I can tell one person about one thing, but like you still have 4 other, like, I would rather have nothing, to be honest with you. That's way too much to juggle.
Yeah, too much to keep track of.
Too much power, and like I don't want to have that much power. I would hate to have that much power.
But again, it's so interesting, right? Like you would think that, and it just, if you step away from the game of Survivor and like transcribe that into real life, it just goes to show you like you having advantages isn't necessarily going to make you the winner or the one that gets picked. You know, at the end of the day, we go back to how Marianne won this was kind of about like, again, why it's play out last. I think that she did a balance of all those 3 things and added I'm going to call Jeff and say, I think you need to make it outwit, outlast, and out summarize. And she summarized all that at the end. Literally. I mean, and like I just said, at that moment, even though the jury's been out and they're resting and they're fed and they're electrolyted and all that, it showed that like it's what's right here and right now in the present, in this moment, that ultimately, even though they're recapping it, it's how you recap this right here, right now, my question of this right here, right now, that they're going to remember. Not even the last 20, not what happened on day 1. If you can't analyze it well on day 25 or 26, you're out.
I just trademarked out summarize, by the way, online.
But having that much power, though, like you can have, I think Jeff said like maybe she had a record of having the most powers at once, but I still wouldn't, even though she broke a record, I still wouldn't say like she's like a top tier player because she didn't utilize them correctly.
Right.
So you can like break these records and like have all of this stuff and get all this airtime, but like it doesn't, like you were saying, it doesn't make you the best player.
Yeah. And again, the title, the knowledge is power, is clearly the most OP, most powerful thing. Granted, it's been outplayed.
Yes.
But that's because it shouldn't be called knowledge is power. It should be called ignorance is bliss, because the second anybody has knowledge of it, you will lose. Nobody wants you to get that resume move off that power.
It's too powerful. So
Yeah.
then it becomes, as soon as anyone else knows about it, it becomes a thing to then take you down with in a way. So
This person needs to be held by like a top tier player, which the 2
Right.
players that had it have been very like basic players, more or less.
So I'm gonna go back to what we were talking about, like how I was how I was upset about the 26 day, the difference in the days. But now the one thing that I do feel bad about with that structure is how like they don't get to come back and be with them in the whole family, the whole team of Survivor that started doesn't get to share in that whole
in the reveal
experience, in the final moment. I think that's for me, was a really, really, really special, no matter where you end up in the game, that reunion is I don't know if I think both emotionally, physically, psychologically, all of it was a really special and important moment for me. And I think that anybody who lived it was, because you had a hand. You were kind of like that. Also, that really beautiful moment that in our seasons, the players got to go back and reminisce about the prior team tribe mates. And there's a phrase there that is really beautiful that says, all of these people had made an impact in your journey. They're a reason of why you are where you are today at this juncture at the end of the game. And so it's an homage and tribute to those people that, for better or worse, they helped you get to this point where you're now possibly going to win a life-altering amount of money. And then, to get to reunite and be there and share in that victory, I think is something that I'm now really grateful for, that our season was 39 days and not 26, because we did get to share in that moment. And your families too,
Yeah. I would love to see them all come back, like you said. Like, I feel like having that much time to like be friends outside, like I think all of their answers would be so drastically different. Like people you were close with in the game, like you're not necessarily going to be friends outside. Like that happens a lot. Like I follow like everyone on Twitter, so like the tea. But yeah, sometimes you like start hating someone, and like their answers are going to be so different like 2 months from now. So,
I like both. I'm a fan of both. I know there's going to be people that are like Bryce, Isaiah, and a lot of people which are correctly claiming mental health for contestants. My claim is please let them walk away if after the vote they are not equipped to talk on camera with Jeff. I hope that they would give them the grace to let them walk and maybe have a tear, because I've seen that in plenty of LRGs, and that's not even for $1 million.
Yeah.
So I can imagine it could be pretty hard on somebody.
Vouch for that. Can vouch for that. 4 days is long enough. 26 days, I think I might have had a way worse reaction on a camera. Like you just can't. You can't be putting the camera in someone's face at that moment. I think that's insane. I mean, they're not professional athletes who are trained their whole life to talk about that type of loss. Like that is a new type of emotion that none of them are ready for. And I give kudos to Mike and Romeo and Xander and whoever is in that position, that they've done pretty well in that spot, because that's not an easy spot to be in.
Yeah, I've been in 2 like finales in an LRG, and like even that obviously is nothing compared, and I still needed like ample time to cry my eyes out afterwards. Like it's so draining, and I couldn't imagine like it being televised for 39 days or 25 or 26 or any time. Like, no, thank you. No. I would need some time. A couple hours at least.
I'm still mad at Kirk for sleeping in a swamp one night. So.
Oh. It was Edge of Extinction. It was perfect.
Yeah.
Not Edge of Extinction.
Well, it was a twist we did before Edge of Extinction was even a twist, I think. Ooh. But anyways, that's a whole podcast. How many times have LRGs correctly predicted a new twist or advantage in Survivor? A lot of times, Rita. It's kind of ironic. But I want to do a quick shout out to 2 of the cast members that I kind of did not give a lot of love this season, but I really loved their final tribal council jury speeches, because I'm an old school kind of jury fan. Earlier in the podcast, I was talking about this might be sacrilege to some of the fans out there, but final tribal council is my least favorite moment of the show, because I just want to get through it. I'm just like, vote. So anyways, I like the old school approach because I could like count down. Okay, there's only 3 people left. They're going to vote. So anyways, Tori and Chanel, that are both from our community, they both gave kind of a question that was kind of old school. They asked them, a question. I loved the one that was like, what did you learn about yourself? Which some people hate those questions because they're so like not strategy, not really social. But I love the personal journey. Like I still am here for it. And that was my favorite answer for all of them.
Mm-hmm.
I loved it.
Yeah, I think that's really got the jury swaying towards Marianne. Like I feel like, I don't know if it was pinpointed like that or what, but like all of their questions like gave her the opportunity to answer perfectly, where Mike like had to struggle a little bit more. I think like, all of the questions fell in her favor.
I agree with
written, I
Peyton.
think, with that in mind.
Yeah, I agree with
Tori
Peyton.
likes her, so I think hers was written with like Marianne.
I think they like drilled
take this and
Marianne
run
in a way that was helpful for her, and then Mike's was just like, I would have just sat there and been like, bitch, I don't know. Like I don't
No.
Yeah, I agree. I felt like every question was like, you know, perfectly tailored for Marianne to shine. Or, you know, to give her credit, she just answered it in a brilliant way.
And she played so under the radar, and like her game wasn't flashy, so like people needed to ask her questions, and that helped her. Where Mike's game was like everyone.
And then there's also timing. I don't know if this is the beauty queen in me, but I also observed that at least in like part of beauty pageant training for questions, we purposely repeat. That's a technique to buy us time to think of an answer. That wasn't necessarily what was happening here, but what I mean by that is I do feel that they were smart enough to take the time, like when Mike was answering the question, then, you know, Marianne and Romeo had that time to think. So that I felt like there were a lot of times where Mike just didn't get that leeway time to think of an answer while the others were answering.
Yeah.
And that's a huge help, because you already know the question and you're getting time.
And you know what the other person said. So
like,
yeah.
It's like huge.
Yeah. Exactly. You're also seeing like how the jury's reacting to what the other person said is going to help you with your answers.
And
so
not
that's
say the same thing, you go a different direction.
Yep.
Yeah.
So it is huge. I never thought about that.
Oh, yeah. There's so many microscopic things that are so important in Final Tribal. I remember at one LRG, the fact that another person had to speak before me and they just simply couldn't come up with the answer fast enough. And I had all that processing time literally won me a vote, because if I had, but
it lost me votes in a sentence.
Yeah,
I lost.
but had I been in his position, I would not have been able to answer it as quickly. So it literally was just the luck of the jumble, right? It's like you go first. So everybody, if you're at Final Tribal Council, cross your fingers that you get to talk last. Yes.
And that's actually, from my experience going to, I'm unfortunately an expert tribal council attendee, because that's the one thing that I got to do over and over and over again. I don't ask me what it's like to win a challenge, but if you want to know about attending tribal council, I'm your girl, because I attended every single one in my time there.
Okay, so
and even in tribal, that's also a really important, like, if I knew then what I know now, but I believe I used that. I did notice that, like, oh wow, while what Jeff just threw out over here, I'm going to take the time now to figure out what I'm going to say in case he goes, Rita, and it's a big help. It's a big help, because you're like, boom, you're like ready with your answer.
So Rita, was tribal council as long as I've heard, like hours?
Yes, tribal, at least for my season, two things. The trek, and they told us this, they did tell us, like, sorry, it's part of course, everything on Survivor has to be grueling. But they told us that in our season, for example, we were already exhausted. But we were exhausted by the time we actually got to sit down at tribal, because we had to climb. I kid you not. We were like, our tribal council was propped up at the top of this mountain in Fiji, and we literally, there were two hills that were, I kid you not, the slope on them was not this. It wasn't this. It was this. Like when we got there and we were looking at them like,
no thanks, bitch.
how we
I'd be like, bum me out. I won't be walking there.
how we gonna climb up this flat thing? And we literally had to like freaking climb up, and it wasn't like with things to grab onto. It was crazy. It was like, wow, is this a challenge? Or
I'd be having Jonathan carry me. Goodbye. No, I'm not walking up there.
So then once you made it past the first one, and you're like, okay, then we're here. Oh no, you ain't. There's another one. So there again, we're like up the second. Oh my Lord! And when we're thinking like, okay, now we're here. Not yet. So then it was this trek to walk up to this. Visually, when we got there, it was these staircases, but then it was like, okay, now y'all got to climb up those staircases. Are you freaking kidding me right now? Didn't we just like do the rock climbing thing? Oh my! So then it was climbing up like 50 flights of stairs, and then they told us that literally, they're like, we're so sorry, but the thing is, the truth is, it was visually stunning, like cinematography wise. The visual of that structure looked amazing, but it was every time we had to go and climb.
And you went every time. That's
and
so
I
sad.
went every time. And then you get sat in front of that fire. I always got sat right in front, like the fire was right there. I'm like, oh my God, please don't let me be Jonathan. Please don't let me be Jonathan and fall flat into that fire, please, dear Lord, because you're like exhausted and dehydrated and all that. And then it goes on for at least 4 hours. Another thing that most people don't, or at least in my tribal council, it was the one place where we had a plethora. We were like paparazzi. The amount of cameras that are filming tribal council is like every single camera person they have out there is there for tribal council. And the reason, and they told us the reason behind that is because I think they said that for each person, they have 3 cameras for each person because they want to capture every single emotion, every single reaction, every single angle.
And Heather still didn't get no airtime. Goodbye.
They have literally.
She didn't have 3 people.
She had 2
Who?
Heather from last season.
Oh. But yeah, that's how they did literally last. That part where Jeff goes away to count the votes takes forever. We're literally sitting there for at least an hour.
And you probably aren't allowed to talk, are you, during that time, or no?
No, yeah, you can. Because they're okay as long as the cameras are on you.
Already voted too,
And as long as the cameras are on you, they're capturing everything and they can grab whatever they want. So they actually want you to react and talk or whatever. But it took at least an hour that we're sitting there just inside, not in silence, but waiting for him to come back with the reading the votes. So it's not.
Do they release any insects and stuff at tribal so they can land on you?
They didn't have to. They were there. And it's funny you should say that because I don't know if it was a mind over matter thing, but like I literally don't remember insects and bites bugging me or being something about it that bothered me. And when I saw my playback of my season, I was literally in shock over every tribal council. How I was the whole time. I was like, and I don't remember that. I do not remember. I mean, for me to be like that the whole time means that they were biting me. They were bugging me. But for some reason, I guess it was mind over matter. I don't remember that being a factor when people ask me like, what were you bothered by the insects? And I'm like, no. But then when I watch it back, I'm like, clearly I was. And one morning I woke up actually, and I couldn't open my eye. I was like this, and I'm like, Mookie, what's in my eye? And Mookie like comes up close and he's like, here, yeah, let me get it, I'll get it. And when he reached to get it, it moved. Whatever it was, it moved. And Mookie was like, oh my God, it moved. Oh my God, I'm not touching that. I don't know what that is. It moved. It was a
I always
stick.
say I want to play, and then I'm like, I no.
I had a stick bug that was sticking to my
Oh,
face.
nice.
No, I would be no. Take me home.
And I'm like, well, get it off.
Take me home. I'm good. Nope.
So Rita, did you get pizza and champagne after the show was done?
Oh, well, somewhat. What happened in my season is when you walk down, well, you mean in our finale? Or
At
our
any
finale?
point.
No, our finale at that moment, there was no, I think there was just one bottle of champagne that they opened, right, for the winner. Yeah. Okay. I mean, it was just like a symbolic thing. But during my season, when you're on the island, when you get voted off and you walk through to do your confessional, there is the psychologist is standing on there with also the medical doctor, and the medical doctor has two lunch bags, like paper lunch bags, filled with 2 sandwiches and chips and soda. And that's what they hand you. But then the doctor tells you, at least on my season that we had been so severely starved, he said, listen, because of the circumstance that you guys were under, we highly suggest that you don't eat. I have to give you these because this is part of, we have to give it to you. But I highly suggest that you literally eat maybe at most half of one of the 4 sandwiches, only half. I would not drink the soda, and again, maybe have 2 or 3 chips, and that's it. And wait like an hour, and then maybe have a little more and a little more, because if you try, I know you're hungry enough to eat all this, but if you do, you're, in the extreme starvation mode that you are in right now, you'll probably throw it all up. So thankfully, I listened. I paid attention. I did everything that's just I really follow instructions, and I followed them to a T. Thankfully, he was right. He was right. But everybody at Ponderosa, I remember Sylvia. Everybody were so mad at me, like, "Why are you eating slowly? Why are you not eating?" And then when I got to camp, I noticed everybody else there had gained like 20 pounds more than their normal. They were like 20 pounds over their normal weight. And so it was like, God, I should have paid attention to the doctor. You're right. You know what? You keep doing it like how you're doing it. Because look at me. I'm like 15 pounds over my normal weight. And it's only been like 5 days that I've been here. But at camp, of course, yes, we had Mark Burnett was tremendously splendid with us from the minute you're voted off to the minute you make it back home. It's like, no holds bar and whatever the survivors want. Mark Burnett is a class act. He was just beyond generous in whatever the survivors want within what's available to us in the locations where we were at. He was like, please give it to the survivors. Like for example, we were in Sydney. We were sent to Sydney, and there's that famous Sydney Bridge. And we're like, hey, you know what? We kind of want to go climb that bridge. Okay, let's make sure they get to do that. Oh, we want to spend a weekend in the outback riding, horseback riding and wine tasting. Okay, well, let's rent them a log cabin and have them and set that up for them. So he's so classy in that way and taking care of his survivor family.
Oh, cool to hear.
I love hearing those stories. Interesting enough, we did find out, I didn't know this earlier, at the end, Lindsay was supposed to be in season 41. She tested positive for COVID. This is why we got Tiffany.
Mm-hmm.
Isn't that amazing?
That's right, because I remember them saying that they added her last second.
Yes.
Yeah.
Dustin picked that up right away.
Oh my God. I love it.
And so great. Lindsay still got a shot this year.
Yeah.
We got 2 female winners in 1 year, one cycle of Survivor. How amazing. How long has it been since we've had a female winner?
Sarah
Lucina. Yeah. Too long. Too long. So this really kind of broke that tradition. I think both Erica and Marianne got all of the votes except for one.
Yeah.
Am I correct on
Both
that?
Canadian.
Both.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Both Canadians.
Wait, did Erica not win Unan?
No.
No.
Who got a vote?
Deshaun got a vote, I think.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Xander was the only 0 vote finalist in
Right.
that season. Yes.
Right. Facebook went wild.
Oh, yeah.
Imagine if Jonathan got 0 votes.
Can you imagine if Jonathan?
Oh my Lord.
Oh, wait.
Probably
Oh,
was
wait.
gonna happen.
I
Wait,
would have loved to
You
see
said
that.
his name.
Uh-oh, sorry.
Sorry.
I just can't stand him for some reason. Like, he's just, ugh.
He really bothered me this episode. The Mr. Jeffs. I think we had 5
Yeah,
of
what
them
is
through the whole
that?
season. I think there were 10 of them in this episode. I was
He
over
caters
the
way
Mr.
too
Jeffs this
much.
episode. I gotta
He
say.
knows people are staring at him and love him and like to look at him, and he plays it up to the camera, which is fine. But goodbye. No thanks.
Well, literally goodbye. The season is over. And for friends, we are going to wrap it up. We have really covered this episode so well. Cam, Peyton, Brandon, Jeff, and Rita, thank you so much for joining tonight. It means the world to me. This was a big experiment covering Survivor this year. It was kind of like our podcast was like, let's try something new. And I think it was really fun to do. I really liked actually the last 3 weeks watching other people do it. So maybe we should think about that. Another thing I really like to shout out to Steven. One episode, he did a Pacific Standard Time podcast that started when they finish. And I just want to put that out there for people out west. That would be fun to get started. Nobody does that really. So let's think about that for next year. But there's a lot of live games happening here in the States. This is the time. The season has already started. There's a ton going on already. Like I said, I've been to 2 already. I might be in another one, but I can't say what. So but
How exciting.
I'm so excited. It's been crazy for me this year. But Survival Challenge, of course, is coming up. Brandon, when is your game?
Ours is August 3rd.
August 3rd. You're right by mine. Mine is August 10 here in Michigan.
I didn't know you were having another season.
Oh, I know. Coco Pele is coming back. It's coming. It's like a phoenix. Every like 4 years, I do another Survivor charity for my friends that have disabling diseases up in Manistee, Michigan. So we're raising some money to help those kiddos out, which is super fun. And Jeff actually is a former contestant of that season. So that's fun to have you back. But thanks again, guys. We're going to leave you at that. Thanks for following us. Make sure you hit those bells and things. Bye. See you later.
All right.